So today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite characters that I ever made that never actually got any proverbial screen time, if you could put it that way. Now, back in my younger years, I had no artistic ability. Really, the only way that I could visualize what my characters looked like was with knees. So this is I recreated it. I'm not sure that the original me looked like this. As a matter of fact, it might not have, but I remember it looking something like this. This guy's name is Ninja. Now, Ninja is probably my favorite character that I made that I never wrote anything about. I actually went looking. I recorded a video before this and I did some research for it, and I actually couldn't find anything that I wrote about Ninja. I didn't write anything about him. And honestly, I really didn't need to. Ninja is not a very complex character. But let's talk about Ninja's origins for a second. So there was this show named Puka, and there was this guy named Tobey. Honestly, the fact that he's 15 is quite shocking to me. But I thought he was an interesting character, that he was always screaming about vengeance. I thought that was really funny. And it wasn't clear what he was getting vengeance for. He was my favorite character on the show. I really liked when he had any amount of success. The other characters never had any problems with success. They always ragdolled Tobey. And I liked when Tobey got some respect. So I sort of adopted a bit of this Tobey persona when I would role play with my sisters. I very creatively just used the name Ninja, and Ninja was a guy who regularly referred to himself as evil. He sort of understood what he was. He understood that he understood that he was a villain and understood his role. And he would regularly get all of his plans foiled, not by any heroes, but just by the people in his own life, like his allies, his stalker. So I would roleplay this guy named Ninja. My youngest sister would roleplay as Ninja's father, who is also one of my more favorite characters that never got a lot of screen time. And my other sister would play Ninja's personal chef, Eliza. Ninja's favorite food was always steak cubes. Not cube steak cubes. That was his favorite meal. And he always requested it. Fun fact, Eliza, if you've watched the I Wrote a Christmas Special video, Eliza, as you know, is Jack's brother. Jack is a major character in my early books. I'm not sure Ninja actually ever had any evil plans. He sort of just understood his role as a villain, as an evil character, as an evil guy. But he never actually did anything bad, I don't think. He would do mundane things, like he would go to the grocery store and they would be all out of his favorite type of cereal or something like that. So as he sort of evolved in my brain as I'm thinking about this character, he took on a number of powers and abilities. His most preeminent power in my mind when I think about him is his ability to generate shock waves from his hands. So this is just a fus da that he blows right out of his hands. If you ever watch, I actually can't find a good video of it. I've looked. I didn't look too hard, but I looked and I couldn't find a good video of a massive explosion. I saw on Mythbusters, they blew up. I don't remember what they blew up. It was their biggest explosion ever, and in slow motion you could see the ripple of the shockwave off the explosion. And Ninja has the ability to basically just spam those indefinitely. He could just spam shockwaves out of his hands. And he uses that to create space, to manipulate the battlefield to his advantage. Another one of his powers that became less prevalent was something called Spirit Hand. I think there's something similar to it in D&D, as a similar spell in D&D. I don't know what inspired it, where I came up with this, but it's just a big hand he controls. It's like a hand that's 10 feet by 10 feet or something, and he can punch people with it, he can grab people with it, grab anything with it, really. And he really didn't use that as much. I guess in my mind, he still had this ability, he just never really used it. So the shockwave was his bread and butter as far as like special abilities go. Now I had mused about he could also, at one point he could also fly. I decided to take away his ability to fly. Instead he can just he can just jump and fly that way by just jumping off of stuff. But he had this really broken ability where if you made eye contact with him, I don't remember if it was bolts of lightning or if it was a laser. If you made eye contact with him, you looked into his eyes, it would a laser would come from his eye and go into your eye and immediately kill you. So that was, and I had not watched Naruto at that point. Okay, it wasn't in my brain to have a Mangekyo Sharingan, friggin' Tsukiyomi. You gotta make sure you don't look in his eyes. Completely original, do not steal. Ninja's profession is he is a swordsmith. That's his day job. That's how he makes all of his money. And he's able to basically just take a bar of steel. This is one of my machetes. I'm not gonna put my finger on the sharp edge, but he like can grab it like this, and he pulls his hand along the edge, along the edge of the bar of steel, and that's how he puts the bevel on. That's how he puts the edge on, with his fingers. So he would grab a piece of steel and go whoosh, and turn it into a sword. So he was fairly strong to be able to do something like that. Ninja was, I do believe, the second or third greatest swordsman in the verse. He was the third. The first one was a guy named Wu Shard, and he really, I never wrote anything about him. I didn't really develop him too much. And the second greatest was a guy named Fracon. And really is a toss-up between Wushard and Fracon, honestly. But I'll talk more about Fracon another day. Another one of my favorite characters that I never wrote anything about. But truly, Ninja holds a special place in my heart, even above Fracon. At one point, if you remember, in the third book I ever wrote, they faced off against, the Stormy Squad faced off against their nemesis Simonican, and he had an ultimate form where he transformed into this like sort of humanoid jackal looking thing. At one point Ninja had something similar. Ninja is of course Simonican's older brother, who is much stronger than he is. Ninja is very, very strong. He had a silver wolf form, and that was his martial art was silver wolf style. Really, I didn't really like that idea a whole lot. I ended up not really using it. It's not something I really ran with. I guess the imagery could be cool the white wolf is something that's used quite a bit in fantasy, but the silver wolf, now we're talking. So he had, as his main weapon, was this 20-foot long sword that was this thick, and the tip of it was like a crescent, like a crescent moon. So it was like a sickle and an axe and a sword all in one. And he was so strong that he could just really just spam this thing, swing it all around. He could use it to get around, he could slam it into the ground and pull himself forward and do all sorts of cool stuff. He really stopped using that, I guess, after he formally joined the side of good. We'll talk about that a bit. So we'll talk about his character. He's a very simple character. Ninja is a curmudgeon. He is, I guess he's a lot like Squidward in some ways, in that he really just wants to be left alone. He just wants to live his life. And something that I actually noticed, really, that's his entire character, okay, is that he's perpetually annoyed at any sort of inconvenience to his everyday life. He's very dedicated to routine, and anything that interrupts his everyday life really gets on his nerves. And that's basically his entire character. And there's so much you could do with that. And honestly, those are my favorite kinds of characters in any sort of fiction. The thing about Ninja, though, is that he's actually the most morally upright character probably in the entirety of the universe. So Ninja's power, I would probably rank him 4th or 5th strongest character in the verse. In my writings, he's the 4th or 5th strongest character. And anyone stronger than him is evil. So compare him to DJ. If you've watched my other videos about my books, DJ uses his power and starts an organization called the DSA. And the DSA basically rules the world. So DJ used his power to start an organization to rule the world. Ninja is leaps and bounds stronger than DJ. And he doesn't do anything with it. He doesn't use any of his powers for his own personal, I guess, revenge, which is kind of ironic considering his original purpose was as a villain, as someone who was constantly seeking vengeance. Ninja actually developed into the most morally upright character. He only uses his power when he has to. We'll talk about some of the other stuff that happens to him, like, in the story. But I think it's interesting that the character who is perpetually annoyed at any inconvenience doesn't use any of his immense power to stop it. Anyone that's annoying him, he could destroy them. He could cut them to bits, but he doesn't. So that he actually is the most gentle character. The character with the greatest amount of restraint. Honestly, the most respectable character in the entirety of my early writings, which is not something that I really thought about until just recently. So really the ultimate story I wanted to write, and the entire reason I wrote those 3 Stormy Squad books to begin with, was as a prequel to the story I actually wanted to write called DSA Chronicles. I wanted to, basically, before the MCU, I wanted to have my MCU, my cinematic, I guess not cinematic, and comic books have made massive crossovers before, so, but I wanted this to be my massive crossover, where all of these different characters would come together to, like, fight the ultimate threat. And Ninja really was pivotal in that battle. He was there basically for every fight. I didn't flesh it out ever. I never wrote it. Again, I was gonna write a Stormy Squad book, a 4th one, and I'll probably read you what I have of that one day. But Ninja, I wanted to write a book that featured Ninja with the Stormy Squad. to sort of introduce that relationship. So in the story, Ninja is sort of loosely affiliated with the Council of 12 Elements. And if you remember Manta and Fire Falcon from books 2 and 3, they are members of the Council of 12 Elements. And they basically survey what's going on in the universe, basically police the universe from like evil, I guess. So that's how he gets involved in this fight against the Shock Legion. And if you remember, they didn't actually, it's never actually stated in the third book that they killed Samonican. It's sort of just assumed they did. But Samonican lives, and there's just a representation of kind of the me version of Samonican there, of what he kind of looks like, right next to his brother Ninja. Ninja was never fond of Samonican. Ninja's not really fond of anyone, to be honest. He barely tolerates his own father, who lives with him. He lives with a squatter named Tough Guy. There's just a guy that lives in his house. A guy lives in his house, and his name is Tough Guy. And Ninja just lets him live there. And he's always causing problems, but Ninja just lets him live in his house. But yeah, Ninja was... honestly, like, knowing that the Stormy Squad defeated Samonican put the Stormy Squad in Ninja's good graces. Basically, Samonican survived the battle against the Stormy Squad, and he infiltrated this already existing empire that was ruled by this force called the Shock Legion, and he sort of like subverted all of their resources to his own machinations and started branching out into other parts of the universe. Ninja really wants to put an end to his brother and all the problems he's causing. Ultimately, Ninja really is the hero of the story. He's not the main character. He's not. But he is the hero. Ninja is the hero, ultimately, of the story. Without him, things would not go good. The bad guys would win, pretty much. Ninja's there for every major battle. Honestly, I feel like I'm not even doing a good enough job describing how much I actually like this character. Because honestly, as I thought about it, he's really not that complex. He's not a complicated character. He doesn't have like a tortured backstory. He's just sort of a guy who's really strong and is annoyed all the time, but he uses his power for the greater good. I guess that's it. There's I mean, I've been rambling for a long time already, but there's not much more to say about him. He really was the thing I enjoyed most about him, even though he was so powerful and featured a lot in the battle. I mean, I guess he really didn't feature a lot, but I planned to have him feature a lot since the stuff never got made. But what I really enjoy about him is the slice of life aspect. And that's something that's carried through even today, that I enjoy characters that are immensely powerful and have great magical abilities that just live everyday lives. They're not constantly in turmoil and war. That's not their lives. That they have regular lives, and they face problems just like everyone else. I really like that. So that's what Ninja represents, I suppose. That's really why he's one of my favorite characters, because he represents the normal life of a superhero, pretty much. And this design, I don't really know. Oh, also a quick factoid, I suppose. Ninja originally wore a pair of pants on his head, and he called that his hat. He wore a pair of pants on his head as a hat. And you might have noticed that in the Christmas special that Ninja didn't have his hat. That's what that's referring to, a pair of pants on his head. I guess I'll tell you some of my favorite roleplay incidents with Ninja. Um, I remember they were throwing a birthday party for his father's 500th birthday party. The planning for it didn't nothing was panning out. He couldn't get the gift he wanted. The decorations weren't right, which I think is a lot of fun. And yeah, his father, I guess I can put as an appendix. I wasn't able to remake the me of his father. I couldn't get it quite right. I don't know. Maybe I'll find a picture of it one day or something. But his father developed, the character developed into one of the ancient masters. If you remember Xixis and Duriok from Book 2, The Ancient Masters of Cozy Island, Ninja's father is one of the ancient masters, and the strongest one, and the oldest one at that. He had all sorts of secret abilities and powers, like he knew all 12 of the elemental martial arts. If you remember, Manta and Fire Falcon respectively used Water Hand and Fire Hand respectively. Macrolac, Ninja's father, knew all of those styles, and he really was that old BA guy that sort of hides how powerful he is. I guess like Yoda or Master Roshi, and he was there was something about the fact that he was so powerful that actually alcohol could not intoxicate him, that he actually had to drink bleach. And this is before the drink bleach meme. This was 15 years ago, probably at this point. 14, 15 years ago. And Ninja's father could only get a buzz by drinking gasoline. Not gasoline, by drinking bleach. Why am I thinking? I'm making this video late at night, guys. Oh, the most important aspect I didn't talk about: Ninja's mansion. Ninja had a mansion named the Dome. The Dome was where he lived, in the middle of nowhere. You also remember from the Christmas special, Ninja was there. He invited the Stormy Squad to the Dome, which was, I remember there was a mansion and a giant glass dome and a big room that really didn't serve any purpose. That was the dome proper, but it really didn't serve much of a purpose. The dome itself. I remember making Ninja in The Sims as well, and he lived with his father and Eliza and Tough Guy. That was a lot of fun. Now, Simonican is a character I actually want to use again. I'm churning it through my mind right now and sort of developing him. In the DSA Chronicles, he really is like a scientist. So even in the Stormy Squad adventures, he like bioengineered the Glug Glugs. So and in DSA Chronicles, he was doing things like just slapping a ton of magical items on this one guy, and it was stressing his body so much that he literally looked like he was about to die any second. He had deep bags under his eyes, all of his veins were bulging all over the place. He made an android that was he basically had an Ultron that as his companion. And I want to reuse that concept because I actually really like that concept of a villain who has a bit of swagger, who's basically like, I guess, an evil Tony Stark without the alcoholism. A Tony Stark without any of the lechery, alcoholism, and actual like ambitions of world domination. I really like that idea for a villain. So I want to reuse the Samanican character in some sense, in some fashion. But the Ninja character is so native to this Smiley universe. I can't imagine taking him out of that setting. I I want to leave him as he was. So Samanican, I'm changing things about him. I'm changing things about his motivations. There's other characters, like I mentioned Fracon before. I want to make a video about Fracon too. I'm sort of changing them and shifting their motivations around and what their abilities are and what they can do and their personalities in a lot of ways. Ninja, I want to remain untainted. I want him to stay just how he is. Because he's perfect just how he is. He is pure Smiley characterization. He's such a simple character. And I don't want to muddy him up by trying to shoehorn him into my newer writings. Also, let me know if you want to. There is some stuff that's completed of my newer writings. If you that's separate from my podcast. If you want to check those out, let me know. But the Ninja character is going into the vault, unless one day I resurrect the Smiley universe, which I have no plan of. I have no plan on doing that. I'm really invested in this universe I'm working on right now. I don't want to go back. So unless I write new stories in that setting, which I really don't want to do, Ninja will forever be this way. He'll remain untainted and unchanged by my whims. He'll remain one of my favorite characters that I never did anything with. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. That was one of my favorite characters, and I've mentioned that a bunch of times, but I don't know if I can say it enough. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of characters that sort of evolve from my understanding of the Ninja character. The character in my weekly story publishing and slash storytelling podcast, Mandy, shows a lot of similarities. Aside from a few things, and I don't want to spoil those stories for you, but Mandy is also perpetually annoyed, really just wants to be left alone. Ninja holds a special place in my heart. He really does. So thanks for letting me share that with you, letting me share my my favorite character.